It is week 12 of college football, and I'm going to be giving my college football predictions for this week. As we get closer to the end of the season, every game seems to matter more, especially for these ranked teams that are still in contention for the college football playoffs. Let's get into it. First, we got the Friday night games. The first one is Clemson at Louisville. Clemson, I mean, it's Clemson. They've had a really bad season. They still have Cade Klubnik. The talent is there, but their season has been really bad. And then Louisville is a team that's hanging on for dear life to their playoff hopes. After that loss last week, they have zero margin for error. They're probably going to need help from other teams to make the ACC title game. And I'm actually going to go with Clemson in this one. I think they pull off the upset here. Like I said, they have the talent. Cade Klubnik is still Cade Klubnik. And even though they haven't been good, I think they're going to put it together for a win right here. The other Friday night game, Minnesota at Oregon. Oregon with a huge win against Iowa last week really propelled them forward and gave them their essentially their first solid win of the season, and they will have no trouble against Minnesota. I know Minnesota's had a decent year. I think they're 6-3 on the year. So they haven't been bad, but I mean the Ducks at home should win this one pretty handily. Then we got the noon. I think this is one of the noon games. I don't know. It's on Saturday though. Wisconsin at Indiana. Wisconsin coming off that huge upset win against Washington that basically eliminated the Huskies from playoff contention. However, this is a whole different story. Indiana actually had a really scary game last week. They needed some Mendoza heroics on that final drive to come back and win that one, and they will have no trouble against Wisconsin. I could see this game being somewhat close to begin with, but I think Indiana pulls away and gets this win. Then I included this one because South Florida is now ranked and they're currently the front runner for the group of five. They're playing against Navy, and both these teams are sitting at the top of the Americans. This is a huge game, actually. And South Florida, I like how they've been playing throughout the year. They have dominated some top teams, or they beat Florida, which is a great win for them. They kind of dominated North Texas and Navy. I believe they've lost two in a row now. I know they lost to Notre Dame, and I know this is at Navy, but give me South Florida, the Bulls, to win this one. Notre Dame and Pitt, huge game for both teams. Pitt um, I guess this doesn't really impact their ACC standings, but this would be a big win for them. And then Notre Dame, this is a must-win game. You can't. This is probably this would be their second good win on the season besides USC. And for someone ranked ninth, I think that's not a great resume, but we're not going to get into that. Um, but Notre Dame is still a solid team, and Pitt is a solid team. Notre Dame, like I said, this is a huge game for them. I'm going to go with Pitt to play spoiler and get a win here. I think their offense has been humming of late, and I think they're going to get enough stops on defense, even though it's really tough to stop Jeremiah Love and this Notre Dame offense. I like Pitt to get the upset win at home. South Carolina, Texas A&M. Texas A&M was they had a win against Missouri last week, which was solid for them. On the road is it's never really easy to win on the road in the SEC, but A&M got it done. And against the South Carolina team that just really hasn't been great this season, Texas A&M should win this one with not much difficulty. Arizona and Cincinnati. This is a big one for Cincinnati. They're back in the rankings, and they want to stay alive in the Big 12 race as well. They only have one loss currently, and that's really their only path to the college football playoff. So this is a must-win game for them. And honestly, I, Cincinnati had that really bad loss to Utah where they got exposed, but I think Cincinnati's a solid team. And Arizona hasn't really been anything special this year. They're typically not in football. They're probably looking more forward to basketball season with how they've been playing. But I'm going to go with the Bearcats in this one. Michigan and Northwestern. Michigan was off last week, and now they traveled to Wrigley Field to play Northwestern. And Michigan did not look good in their last game against Purdue. Granted, they were very, very injured. Hopefully, they get some of those guys back. And I think this game could be close, could be fairly close. I think Michigan will get the win, but I don't really have so much. I think they could pull away with it, but I would not be surprised. I think this is likely going to be within 20 points for the final score, but give me the Wolverines. NC State and Miami. Miami up to 15 in the rankings. Begs the question, would 10-2 Miami get in as an at-large? I don't know. We'll have to see how the rest of the field plays out. But they get this home game against NC State, and NC State has played spoiler early in the year. This is really a game that Miami obviously can't win. They're not really in contention for the ACC championship game anymore, so they cannot afford to lose this game, and I don't think they will. I think they will get this win against NC State. Virginia and Duke. Virginia lost last week to Wake Forest, I want to say. Or maybe that was, I don't know, but I know Virginia lost last week, which hurts for them because any chance of them getting an at-large bid was removed. They have to win the ACC, and this is a huge game for the standings because, ladies and gentlemen, Duke only has one loss in the conference. So they're 5-4 overall, but they only have one loss in the ACC, which is kind of crazy. So this is a huge game for both teams. I think the loser's gonna have a really, really hard time with how close the top of the ACC is. I'm gonna go with Duke. I think they lost to UConn last week, but at home in the ACC, they've clearly played well in the ACC. And I'm gonna go with them to pull off the upset here. The big one in the Big Ten, Iowa versus USC. Iowa didn't drop. I think they dropped one spot after that loss to Oregon, and rightfully so. If the committee's going to be rewarding close losses, it makes sense that they're still right around that 20 range. And USC, they played Northwestern last week. They got that win, which is actually closer through for the first half or so, and then they pulled away a little bit. This is going to be a defensive game. That's how it is with Iowa. Um, and I do like USC's offense. I think in the crunch time, they will be able to come up with some plays. It's going to help that it's at the Coliseum. That's just how it's going to be. Just like Iowa was helped against Oregon last week being at home. And so I'm going to go with the Trojans. And this is a huge game for USC too, because they lose this one, they're out of the playoff. No chance of making the playoff. So they have to win this one, and I think they will. UCF and Texas Tech. How about the win from Texas Tech last week against BYU? Just dismantled them. They're going to win this week with very little trouble, and they are looking like a serious contender for a bye and maybe even a national championship contender. BC and Georgia Tech. This one, Boston College has not had a good year at all. I think they only have one win on the season. And Georgia Tech is another team playing for their playoff lives in the ACC. There may be a scenario where they get in as an at-large if they go 11-2 but beat Georgia. But the easiest thing for them would just be to win out, and I don't think they will lose here at home against a very bad Boston College team. This is one of the big games in the SEC, Oklahoma and Alabama. Oklahoma, I think they need to win out and go 10-2. Alabama's looking like they're in a much better situation to make the playoff. I think they're all but clinched right now. If they win this game, I think they're a lock. And the question is going to be, can the OU passing game get going? John Mateer hasn't been great passing the ball. He's been better throwing the ball. And this Alabama offense is humming right now. Ty Simpson is still playing at a very high level. They did well against LSU last week. And as much as it would be interesting to see the Sooners win to kind of spice things up in the playoff, I think the Crimson Tide have been way too good. And this is going to be a close game, I think. But in the end, I think Alabama is going to win. It helps that it's at home. It really does. New Mexico State and Tennessee. I don't even know why I included this game because Tennessee is out of the playoffs, and they're playing their kind of like their late season nothing game, which is what the SEC likes to do, and they'll win this game without much trouble. Florida and Ole Miss. Florida, we know the story with them. The talent's there, similar to Clemson. The talent's there. The results are not. And Ole Miss is really looking to lock up a playoff spot in these last couple weeks. They only have two more games. They're 9-1. I think if they win this game, they're pretty much a lock for the playoff. And I think they will. They've been playing well. Trinidad Chambliss, who knew about him before the season started, and now he's playing really well. Utah and Baylor. Utah, interesting that they're number 13. A lot of people talking about them, their playoff case. Would they get an at-large? I don't know. This is a tricky road game against the BYU team that is good on offense, but very bad on defense. And I could see this going Baylor's way and them spoiling the Utes season. I really would not be surprised about that at all, but I do think Utah is going to win this one in a close one. So give me Utah. Then here's the big matchup. Texas and Georgia. We circled this one on the calendar before the season started, and now it is bigger than ever. Texas maybe needs this one. If they win this game, they would have a very, very strong case to make the playoff, regardless of whether they beat Texas A&M or not. They might need to lose that game closely. If they get blown out, we might be having different discussions. And Georgia hasn't really been dominating opponents until they went into Starkville last week and they crushed Mississippi State. Texas Oh, this is gonna be a really fun one in the night game for Georgia. I think the conservative decision would be to go Georgia here, but it also I don't know. This is really not. I just have a feeling that Texas, they're going to be playing with desperation, and they're going to come out with more fire than Georgia. I'm going to go with the Longhorns, and this could easily be a Georgia win. I think this is going to be the matchup of the week. But I'm going to go with Texas to get this upset win and put themselves in a very good situation at the college football playoff. UCLA and Ohio State. This one is not so difficult to pick. Ohio State will win this. UCLA has had a nice little mini story earlier in the season when, well, I guess it's not nice that their coach got fired, but then they went on a little three-game winning streak and they've kind of come back down to earth. Ohio State should win this one at home. And then lastly, we got TCU at BYU. BYU, I'm really thinking that they're going to be kind of shell shocked coming out of that crush, coming out of how they got crushed by Texas Tech. Now, TCU is not even a bad team. They're 6-3. Their losses are not good, I will say that. But they have a solid quarterback in Hoover, and I'm gonna go with TCU. I'm picking some upsets this week. I think TCU is gonna go into BYU and get an upset because I think BYU may still be lacking in spirit, lacking confidence a little bit. We'll see how they rebound. This game would, I think TCU is gonna get this win and all but eliminate BYU from playoff contention. So, anyways, guys, those are my Week 12 playoff predictions. Let me know what you guys think and give me your predictions down below. If you think any upsets will happen, what do you think about Texas, Georgia, especially? And I'll see you guys in the next one.